Hello, everyone. Welcome to another virtual event with Mysterious Galaxy. Of course, I am Nick, the director of events and the digital marketer for the store. Tonight, we have a thrilling read, a dark and spooky night. We have Shea Ernshaw with Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. Hey,
Yay!
Shea.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes. And of course, in conversation, we have the one, the only Tiffie Starchild. Hello, Tiffie.
Hi, how's it going?
Great. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, Omar. Hey, Ashley. Thanks for commenting.
Yay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here for Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. I remember back in December when we had Shane last for her other virtual event for History of Wild Places. She had mentioned this towards the end of the conversation.
Oh.
What's going on? What's this? So I myself have been long awaiting this book, and I hope a lot of you have been as well. If you haven't gotten your own copy yet, this is a great opportunity to get it at Mysterious Galaxy, because not only do you get the book, but Shea has been wise and wonderful enough to submit these very cool, okay, got to focus, there we go, book plates that are so themed to the book. That is so good.
And those are so hard to find. Like, there are no signed copies of that book anywhere. So if anyone's been trying to hunt them down and sending me DMs, like, where do I get this? This is where you get it.
This is the best you get.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Shea, how dare you? But she is a New York Times bestselling author and winner of the Oregon Book Award. Her books have been published in over 12 countries and languages, and her novels, The Wicked Deep and Winterwood, are indie next picks. In conversation, of course, we have Tiffie Starchild, a content creator, host, gamer, and performer who is widely passionate about nerd and fandom culture. You can find her video editorials and photo portfolios across all social media platforms using her handle at Tiffie Starchild. And this is part of her intro or her bio that I love to say, yip, yip. Some of you have already found that ask a question button below. So if you have any questions that you want to ask Shea later in the program, that's a wonderful place to put them there. I'm going to go ahead and stop gabbing now that I have all that out of the way. I'm going to leave it to these wonderful people to go ahead and discuss. I'll see you all later in the program.
Yay.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Shea. Thank you so much
Tiffy.
for having me. So I have a confession as I continue to tell on myself in this experience. When I first saw the title of your book, when they asked like, oh, if I wanted to be the in conversation partner, I just saw the title of the book. There was no cover. I had no idea. And I was like, Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. Yes, it's about a girl that loves fall. And maybe she's the pumpkin carving champion of her small town. And I love that. Let's go. So when the book arrived and it was Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, it was an even better surprise. And I was very, very surprised because I am a Disney girl. And I was wondering if we could start off. So that was my intro to it. It was just like a pleasant surprise. Like, oh, I get to geek out even more over something I love.
Well, would you mind giving me Pumpkin Carving Champion? Like, that's a great story idea.
Like if that's your next book, I'm just gonna be right there to support you, like always. So from here on out. So.
I love it.
Would you mind telling us a bit about the book or just your take on it? Can you wrap up your book for us?
So the book takes place after the end of the movie, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and Sally is now the Pumpkin Queen of Halloween Town, but she feels a little unsure about her new role. There's a lot of pressure being put on her and by the community. And so she inadvertently opens a doorway into a new realm and unleashes a villain onto Halloween Town. And now Sally must try to figure out how to save Jack, save all of Halloween Town, and in the process discovers a whole backstory about herself that she was not aware of previously.
I love that. And I love that it's flipped to where Jack is the one that's being saved, because that's not how we've seen his character before.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, I'm a big Disney and Disney property fan, and I do love Nightmare Before Christmas. So what was your relationship with Nightmare Before Christmas before taking on this project? Like, were you a fan of it growing up? not so much. Like, tell us the story there.
Yeah. So I owned a VHS tape of the Nightmare Before Christmas movie, for anyone who remembers what VHS tapes are. And I watched, and I watched that movie so many times that the tape inside the VHS would break. And my sweet parents would take the VHS tape into a repair shop, which also existed back in the 1800s, which apparently is when I was growing up.
Not the 1800s, please.
So they would take it in, they would repair the tape. I would watch it another 50, 100 times. It would break again. So, and what happens is when they repair VHS tapes and you try to watch the movie again, there's like this hiccup that happens in the movie where like the audio and the video now has to like skip over where they like spliced it together. So pretty soon my copy of The Nightmare Before Christmas was a total mess. Like you could barely watch it because it just like was breaking up and cut in half in all these places. So yes, I have a deep love for Nightmare Before Christmas. But really it's not just Nightmare Before Christmas, but anything Tim Burton ever created, you know, Edward Scissorhands, Big Fish, Beetlejuice. Like I was just so obsessed with everything that he ever did. So when Disney reached out and asked if I wanted to write a book about Sally, I think I have never said yes to a book offer so fast in my whole life.
Wow. That's very cool. And so was it kind of intimidating to add to the lore of The Nightmare Before Christmas? And it's so beloved, and you know, fans can be really protective. We'll say protective over the things they love. Is that kind of intimidating, knowing that it's going to be very closely scrutinized by people that love it as much as we do?
Yes. Intimidating is a very nice way to put it. I think, you know, even writing the very first chapter of that book, you know, because it was the first time I was leading readers really back into Halloween Town after all these years. And I was doing it through Sally's eyes. And so I really wanted to get it right. I mean, there was a lot of pressure around wanting to make sure that her character felt true to who she was in the movie and how we all remembered her and when we all fell in love with her. You know, and as a reader, I would want that. Like, I want to be able to read a story and feel like I was just like diving back into this amazing world that I had loved so much. But you know, what was interesting is when writing the book, every time I sat down to write it, it always felt like Sally was there and took me by the hand and really was showing me her story. And I just needed to trust that she had a story to tell and I was just her ghostwriter. And so I was really just
ghostwriter. That's a good one,
right? I'm Sally's ghostwriter because it really the whole time felt like her book and her story. And I just had to trust that she knew where it was going. And I was just along for the ride. And, you know, in terms of the lore, like this idea of like, you know, messing with what currently existed, I think for me, I was really careful. I didn't want to mess with anything that just felt iconic. But there was a piece for me that I wanted to free Sally from her past with Dr. Finkelstein. You know, I didn't want her to be simply just his creation. You know, I never liked that idea that he was her creator. It just felt unfair and unjust. And so I, in the book, really gave her a new past and one that feels very independent. And it's an identity that's very separate from Dr. Finkelstein. And I wanted to give her her own hero story that she's worthy of, I think.
I think that you did a great job at that. And I think that giving, it felt like I heard everything in Sally's voice, like everything from, and the way that you described things in the book is so wonderful. Like it's so vivid and it's just, you paint such lovely pictures. Everything felt like Sally was speaking to me. And I don't want to give anything away of the book, obviously, but the way that you addressed what I definitely glossed over when I watched Nightmare Before Christmas, especially as a kid, like how much Sally is really abused and how much of her decisions are kind of framed in that as an adult, looking at it with my adult eyes.
Right.
It's very eye-opening. Like I want to go back and watch the movie just kind of from this perspective now that you've given Sally more of a voice. So I think that you did an incredible job of bringing her to life and just giving her more substance besides fabric and dead leaves. So
right.
Do you have a favorite character in all of Nightmare Before Christmas?
I mean, of course, it's easy to say Sally. You know, I think growing up, she was always my favorite. But I do think like Zero feels really special, like the dog sidekick Zero. In an early draft, Zero actually goes on like this adventure with Sally. And through some revision process with my editor, we decided to take that out. There were just some logistics that weren't working. But Zero just always felt really special. And at the end of the book, he really comes in and helps sort of save the day as well. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a nice dog sidekick?
I love Zero in the Nightmare Before Christmas fandom. I love that he gets so much love and so much merchandise. That makes me very, very happy.
Agreed. Yeah.
So when it comes to writing for Disney or something that's already established, how is that different from when you're writing your own stories and when you get to create your own world and have your own characters and their lore? How do those processes kind of differ?
Yeah. You know, there's definitely more guardrails when you're writing in a world that someone else created. While drafting the book, I often felt like I was rooting around in Tim Burton's head and I was just trying not to break anything. You know, he created such a perfect world. So it was like I was tiptoeing through Halloween Town, not wanting to knock anything over, get any details wrong. You know, that world is just, it's so perfect and I didn't want to mess anything up. But there's also something really fun about writing in a world that already exists. You know, so much of the world building is already there. It's like it's like the scaffolding is in place and I'm able to go in and sort of play around in that. Almost like a kid is just like set loose in Halloween Town and I'm playing around in this world that already exists. But I also wanted to try to write the story from a perspective like as a reader or as a fan. And I know as a fan myself, there's certain things that it's like you don't touch, like you don't mess with certain elements of this story. And for me, like Jack was really one of those characters. Like Jack is so iconic that I just didn't want to change or mess with anything with him. And I think too, like, I know Tim Burton has a lot of ownership over Jack and he really feels like Tim Burton's character. And so I just I really tiptoed around Jack as I leave him exactly how he is because he is so great too. Like, what do you need to change? But yeah, and as I was writing, I tried to write it as if I was reading someone else's book. Like if someone else was writing this, I would sort of check in with myself, like, would I be comfortable with this change? And if not, like that was my barometer for knowing like, okay, I've gone too far, like bring it back a little bit. Don't change this, don't change that. But I mean, really in terms of like the world of Halloween Town, I didn't change. It's mostly Sally's story that I altered a little bit, but yeah, it was an interesting experience for sure.
Are you able, and I understand if this is kind of like, if you're not able to really get into this question, was there a change that you made, one of those changes that you can share where you're like, oh no, this is too far, we need to pump the brakes, it's too much dip on the chip? Like one of those that had to be taken out, is there one of those that you could share with us?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there was anything that was too far. I mean, I honestly thought like the main backstory change that happens for Sally and like that big shift, I thought for sure that Tim Burton and his team were going to say, no, like these characters are who they are. You cannot alter it. You can have them, you know, go on a new story and a new adventure, but you can't alter their origin story. But they were fine with it. And so I was honestly really surprised because that was the biggest one for me that I thought there's no way they're going to let me do this, but they did. And even inserting,
that's very cool.
Yeah, and even towards the end of the book, Sally has an interaction with Queen Elizabeth, and that was something that I thought, you know, that's not part of the lore, but I thought, can you write about Queen Elizabeth in a fictional story? I don't know. And
and do they allow that?
Right. Certainly there's a group somewhere, someone who's like, no, absolutely not. So I was waiting for somewhere along the line, someone to say like, you can't talk about Queen Elizabeth, but it's still in there. And that was another character I was very careful writing about. I mean, because she's the queen, you know, I had to like.
Right. Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to
show. You don't need anyone knocking on your door late at night.
Yep.
No, I don't know how they handle something like that, but my mind goes to the worst possible.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be on the receiving end of that, so I just was the utmost respect when writing Queen Elizabeth, and I was waiting up until the very last draft for someone to say, like, no, that scene has got to go. Like, we heard from the Queen, and she said no.
And she's not pleased. She doesn't like what you have going on in this Night Before Christmas. I don't know if you're catching sight of the chat at all, but you're getting a lot of love for maintaining Jack's personality and character from Becca, and DJ says hello. Madison says that you did an excellent job writing Jack while keeping him in character. They love the twist, all of that. So I just wanted to let you know that you were receiving a lot of love.
Yay. And hi, DJ. Nice to see you.
So I guess for me, I didn't realize, are you able to explain a little bit for those of us that don't know? So Disney approached you about doing this book, which listen, go girl. But so how closely do you work? How much of a collaborative process is it to get the book done?
Yeah.
Working, going back and forth.
Yeah. So yeah, they approached me. And sorry, I got stabbed by my cactus earlier today. So I'm like, and I think there's still like, cactus. I tried to pull the pieces out, but I'm like, ow, I still feel it. Very rude cactus. So yeah, so Disney approached me and asked if I'd be interested. And all they knew at that point was that they wanted to do sort of a sequel to the movie from Sally's point of view. And when they asked me if I'd be interested, you know, they said, well, do you have an idea of what that story might look like? And so I went on which is what I do. This is how I brainstorm. I go on a walk, I like escape, go into nature. And I started thinking about like, what would this story be? And the first thing that came to mind was this contrast between nightmares and dreams. You know, the movie was really about nightmares. And I thought, what's the counterpoint to that? And well, that's, you know, dreams and nightmares. And so that's really where the genesis of the story came from, is like, if Jack is nightmares and Sally is dreams. And that's where the whole dream town came from and Sally's origin. So it all really stemmed from that. And so basically at that point, I wrote up a pitch, like a 1-page pitch that goes back to Disney. And then that goes on to Tim Burton and his team to see if they approved it. And I had no idea if they were going to come back and just say no to all of it. You know, you have no idea. But yeah, they came back and loved it and said, that's great, go write the book. And I went, oh, okay, no pressure. Don't get it wrong.
Right.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, let me just go do that. And so, yeah, I wrote, you know, a first draft, and then that would go through the Disney team and then the Tim Burton team. And then it would come back with, you know, any notes that they might have. Thankfully, throughout the process, there really wasn't a lot, nothing major in terms of the story that they wanted to change. So I felt really, really lucky that I was given a lot of free reign in terms of like the story and the plot. So yeah, there was a lot of back and forth. You know, often, you know, I would write a draft in like a month, and then they would take like 6 months because there were so many people that had to like read it and give notes and then get back to me. They go, okay, you have a month to make a change again. Like, they get more time to read it than I get to write it. But yeah, it was an interesting process in that sense, because every decision has to be run by a committee of people, really. To make sure that it's done right. And I'm thankful for that, because I need someone to have some checks and balances, because I didn't want to get anything wrong.
Oh, absolutely. I think that would be good for like my anxiety. Like, this whole list of people said all of this was okay.
Yes.
So we're good here.
Yep, exactly. So any detail about any like sub character, side character, or even just like dialogue that was happening, as long as everyone signed off on it, it's like, okay, we're good.
Then you're good to go. Nice. Yeah. I think it's really, and that's why I wanted to make it the first question that I asked you, just what was your history with The Nightmare Before Christmas? Because I'm really not, I'm not trying to like overly compliment you or anything, but the writing is so good. And for anyone that hasn't had a chance to read this book yet, I think that it's so enjoyable just as a book, period. The way that you paint these pictures, they're so realistic. I am suffering in the heat of summer, but you know, in Valentines Town, you took me to this lovely spring. Like when you were like, the air is chocolate and rose petals, I was like, stop it. Please don't take me away. right. But then Halloween Town, I felt like I was in fall, and it was just so magical the way that you did that. Everything about it. It seems like the perfect continuation of the movie. Like I didn't realize that there hadn't. Disney throws out so many sequels, typically as movies, even if they're straight to streaming or straight to DVD. I didn't realize that Nightmare Before Christmas didn't have a follow-up, and this just flowed so seamlessly. So if I feel that if you're a Nightmare Before Christmas person, you will enjoy this novel, because everything, all of the descriptions of just being dead in this world. How do you make something romantic and beautiful, but like creepy at the same time?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's like the nicest thing. Will you go on tour with me? Because
happily, and just sit and talk about this book and be your hype woman before you come out. Yeah. I'll do that.
Okay.
And so much love in the chat. Yes, still. Let me see. Oh, that is a good follow-up to that question about how long was the whole process from approach to publication?
Yeah, so I think I was approached for this book at the start of 2020. So great timing, because I didn't have anything else going on.
Right.
I was on deadline for 2 other books, but it was like, look, we're all just staying home, so sure, let's add another one. So I think in total it was about a year, probably a year and a half.
Okay.
The whole process. Yeah. Yep. To get it done.
All right.
Yeah. Not too bad.
Okay. And of the characters that you introduce, which one are you most excited for readers to meet and kind of get to know in the story?
Okay. Well, this is going to be a spoiler. So if you haven't read the book yet, if you don't want this spoiler, then earmuffs, mute, step out of the room. Because I think the characters I'm most excited for people to read are Sally's parents. So Sally has 2 parents that we learn later in the book. They're 2 ragdolls just like her. They are the governors of Dreamtown, which I'm also really excited for readers to get to explore Dreamtown. It's a whole new realm that wasn't in the movie. And so when Sally's in Dreamtown, she ultimately discovers her true origin, what her real home. And this discovery sort of like gives her more of a grounded identity. And I think, the scene where she first meets her parents in that moment, and she's seen someone who looks like her for the first time. She spent her whole life and she's never met another ragdoll. And suddenly I think she feels this connection to someone outside of herself, and she feels not so alone. And it feels like it's such an important scene for her, just in terms of her whole journey, and also helping her understand her role as Queen of Halloween Town. But it's like bringing her parents in. It just feels like Sally finally has a home and has a place where she belongs, and yeah, that was a big moment. Sorry for the spoiler.
Is that
someone who didn't want it?
Before we release the spoiler, because one of my follow-up questions to that is, what do you want your readers to experience as their it doesn't have to be that same moment, and it doesn't also have to be a spoiler, but what do you want the readers to feel as they're going through this book?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want readers to feel connected to Sally again, to be able to read the story that we've all waited 30 years for. Sally waited 30 years to tell her story, and like we waited 30 years to really get to see who she really is and go on this journey with her. And I hope it just inspires people in some way, because I found Sally just infinitely inspiring. And I just was so honored to get to be a part of her story and like go on this journey. And so I hope that people just feel connected to her again.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we're good to unmute. We're not doing any spoilers.
Yeah.
So given the opportunity, like, are there any other, it doesn't have to be Disney, but with anything geeky or nerd related, what else would you like to write for? Or if you want to brag on your resume and there is something else that you've written for that we need to know about, what other stories would you like to take on?
So I don't even know if I can say this right now.
We won't tell.
So I'm just going to frame this as, I would love to write a sequel to can I say this? I wonder if my publicist. I would love to write something around Edward Scissorhands. Not promising anything, but just
right. And I'm just gonna say that I hope that happens for you selfishly, because it would then also be happening for us. So
yeah. You didn't hear it here. Nobody say anything. Like, everyone promise
absolutely
in the
not
comments right now that you didn't hear anything.
nothing. So, well, I think that's really cool. That nothing that I heard. I'm just keeping my reaction nice and neutral.
Yeah.
Because you didn't tell me nothing, right? Good. Everyone in the chat's playing around. They're like, heard what? Everyone understands the assignment.
Yeah. Some pinky swears like in those comments. Just not leave this room. You guys won't tell anybody.
All right, we're all friends here. We're all friends here.
Yeah.
And I did throw in one goofy question. Given the choice from the original Nightmare Before Christmas, if you could only save one holiday, Halloween or Christmas, which one are you choosing to save?
Okay, so are you saying like we're keeping one of those holidays, the other one goes in the trash?
Yeah, one of them has to go, Halloween or Christmas. That's a lot of celebrating at the end of the year, frankly.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah,
a little overwhelming. So one has to go and you have to make the decision.
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly quite easy for me because I cannot survive without jack-o'-lanterns and apple pie and autumn leaves. Like, these things are baked into my DNA. So yeah, we're saving Halloween. Sorry, Christmas has got to go. But what would you pick, Tiffie? What would you pick?
Ooh, See, don't let all this bright pastel fool you. I'm a Halloween girl. I love Halloween.
I knew you were.
It's very funny.
I knew you were.
Soon, but I gotta go. It's still too early. I know everyone is starting Halloween decorations. Michael's is starting to fill up with Halloween, but I'm just like, it's still hot outside. I'm in Southern California. I'm in San Diego, and it is. We don't even get a traditional fall. The autumn in my imagination is what I've seen in movies like Hocus Pocus or Nightmare Before Christmas. So I haven't even lived that life.
Oh, so wait.
Right,
so
but I would
at Comic-Con since you're in San Diego?
Oh, absolutely. This was my first Comic-Con in 3 years, and it was perfect. It was an amazing time.
How did we not get together? How did this not happen?
I don't know. And I think that we should internet pinky promise not to let it happen again.
We're not going to let that happen again. We've learned that lesson the hard way.
Right. I am definitely here. Do you come to San Diego often?
Nope.
Nope. But you know what? I'm in New York often because are you in New York?
Are you going to the New York Comic-Con? Sorry, everybody. We're having a whole
It's just a whole personal conversation. And it's funny. I did see DJ there, and I was just like, new friends. Hello, book friends.
I know. DJ's getting shout outs.
I know DJ, famous in the book community. I will probably not be at New York Comic-Con, but I will just be in New York, period. Like, I love New York, so I think I'm just going to be spending more time there. We're going to make this happen.
We'll talk. This will happen.
This will happen. But I think that's a great time for us to kind of move over into the questions that have been submitted. Yeah. And if you still wanted to submit a question, there's a nice little link at the bottom towards the right hand of the screen. Ask a question. I'm going to plug this link here. I don't know. It's shining and green and beautiful for me. I don't know if that's the same way on everyone else's computer. But if you would like to pick up this book, Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, that is the link that you will be using to go ahead and do that there. And just as a reminder, I'm trying to catch things in the chat as I can, but the best way to get your question seen is to go ahead and submit it in the Ask a Question. That way we can be super organized about this. But first one, hello, Shea. This is from Allie Sunny.
Hi, Allie.
Oh, that's very funny. The votes move them around. So this one from Allie Sunny. Could there ever be a story about Jack and Sally's family after Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. Also, thank you for writing such a beautiful story for Sally.
Oh,
And that is
yay.
from-
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've had this question before because there's a song for those of you who are diehard Nightmare Before Christmas fans. There is a song that talks about Jack and Sally's kids. So obviously my book takes place like right after the movie, so they haven't had the kids yet. But I love the idea of exploring that because obviously a little brood of ragdoll / skeleton kids running around. I mean, that would be fun to write. So yeah, I mean, I think there's so much there. There's so much fun stuff that could happen, that could be written about. So that's definitely on the radar as something that could, in the future, maybe. We'll see. No promises.
That's exciting. So no promises, but maybe for a future family for Jack and Sally.
Cute.
Thank you, Allie, for that question. And this one from Lorene. Hello, Shea. With how amazingly well Sally's book has been doing, is a movie or show of the story possible in the future?
Oh, do not make that face, Tiffie. You're like, I hope so. I have no control over whether that happens or not. I think it would be really fun. I think there's a lot that could be created. The big question is, would they do a stop motion animation as they did with the original movie? Because if so, they need to start shooting that like yesterday, because that takes
right
5 to 10 years. So yeah, I hear murmurings every once in a while, but I don't know anything definitive, so there's nothing I can reveal at this point, but it would be really fun. So I'm hoping so. You guys cross your fingers.
I will keep our fingers crossed, and I will control my face. Next question from Jessica Wyatt. How was it working with such an amazing but yet mysterious person like Tim Burton?
Mysterious is the exact right word. So I never got to work with him directly. It would have been really helpful. There were a lot of questions about some of the just like original screenplay that I had, but he's a hard guy to pin down. So most of my questions I had were then relayed through, to Tim Burton and his team. So I didn't get to like sit down and have tea with the guy. Would have been really fun though. And I would have Instagram lived it if that had been the case. So if it happens in the future, you guys will know.
So what she's saying is turn on the Instagram live notifications at Shea Ernshaw on Instagram.
Thank you, Tiffie. Thank you for that nice little plug.
And next question from Laura Manjarez Ruiz. Hello, Shea. First of all, thank you for the book. We get to see what would have happened literally after Jack and Sally kiss. And do you think Disney and Tim Burton will make a series or cartoon series at least on Disney Plus? And if so, have you discussed with them and the OG cast from the movie? Ooh, they're putting you in the room where it happens.
Wow.
They said.
Yeah, exactly. I like this. That would be amazing. And oh my gosh, wouldn't it be cool to have the original voiceovers come in and to like play those characters again too? Would be incredible.
That would be
I mean, Catherine O'Hara, who voiced Sally, was just amazing. I did hear this little tidbit that they tried to get Catherine O'Hara to voice the audiobook for the book to be Sally's voice, which would have been amazing, but I guess it couldn't. I'm sure she's very expensive and very busy. So that's fine. But yes, I don't know about any of these other amazing things but yeah, hopefully they happen because that sounds great.
Speaking of, I'm just saying, and this is not me trying to coerce you into coming out to California for a non-convention, but I'm just saying at the Hollywood Bowl, no, this is going to be great. At the Hollywood Bowl every year, they do the Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's like on the huge screen in the outdoor amphitheater. They play the movie, but then they also have the cast come out to do the song. So they cut the sound from the movie and they perform it live with the LA Philharmonic. And Danny Elfman is there. And I'm just saying you should just come out to California. I feel like they should give you some tickets, to be honest.
Yes. The answer is yes. I'll do it.
Excellent. Cool.
Consider me there.
The next question is from Becca. Hi, Shea. Would love to know how you found inspiration while plotting this book and giving life and personality the other characters and worlds that you created.
Yeah. So I, to inspire me for like the Halloween Town portion, I watched the movie a lot. I was really careful because I didn't want to watch it so many times that I started to hate it because I've already seen it so many times. And if you like watch something too much, I was careful. And then for the other worlds, it just felt like for so much of my childhood watching that movie, I wanted to know what was behind the other doors in the grove of trees. And I think a lot of people felt that way. We didn't get to see what those other holiday towns looked like. So it felt like I was finally getting to like step through those doorways and get to experience those worlds. And so those were just so fun to write because it was like my childhood brain got to step in and just imagine and conjure up anything I wanted for all of those different holiday realms. It was just such a fun part to write that. And hopefully you guys thought it was fun too, and to finally get to go through those doorways.
I thought it was great. I could talk for days how much I love Valentines Town. So yes, I think it was very obvious that you were just having a lot of fun with it.
Yes. If you could go into any of the holiday towns, which would it be, Tiffy? And then you guys answer in the comments too. Like if you could go do a week in any holiday town, which would it be?
Ooh. And if you haven't seen, or if you don't remember, or you haven't read the book, there are different options. There's the Valentine's one. There's Christmas Town, of course, Halloween Town. There's an Easter one, a 4th of July.
Yeah.
Ooh, am I going to remember all of them? No. What's the other
Thanksgiving. I think the Thanksgiving's the last one.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. That was
so
Becca
said instant move to Dreamtown. 100%. No hesitation.
Right? I mean, because you get to take naps all day. It's like very dreamy and like relaxing. I mean, I'm kind of there too.
Listen, but for me, it was Valentine's Town for the aesthetic. The way that you described it, and like, it gave me Madame Puddifoot in Harry Potter without being obnoxious. I think that that was intentionally written, especially from Harry's perspective, to be like not a place he wanted to spend time. Meanwhile, I'm like, can we go back to the Heart Cafe in Diagon Alley or not, or Hogsmeade, wherever they were? But yeah, and just the way that you described the suite and everyone's in love and everyone's heart shaped. I would bow to that queen every day. I'd be like, yes, Your Majesty, what magic are we experiencing today in the Love Town?
I know. She's pretty fabulous. And like the chocolate river. I mean, there are a lot of things to love. I agree. And the Cupids.
All of it. We have some votes for Halloween Town, another one for Dreamtown. Madison says, I think I'm just a tiny bit more partial to Halloween Town, but Dreamtown is a very close second. No one's going to be joining me. So you telling me I got to be single in Valentine's Town as well? That's fine. No one has to join me. It's cool. No, Jessica will be there with me because their birthday is close to Valentine's Day. Thank you, Jessica. You're a real one.
Love that.
This question from Rainbow. I'm sorry, I'm headed to those Thanksgiving Town streets. Thank you, Wakanda forever. So next question from Rainbow. Hi, Shea. What was your first reaction to the cover for the novel? It's gorgeous. Did you know what it was going to look like?
Yeah, so I think at some point I will share to my Instagram, I'll share some of the early sketches of the draft. So I got to see the cover when it was just a pencil sketch, like just a very rough idea of her. And initially the sketch, she didn't feel powerful enough to me. So that was my only note back to them is like, she is queen now. And like, this is her story. And I wanted her to really like sit there and wear the crown as if she was as powerful as she does become in the book. And so they sort of adjusted her facial features and her posture a little bit so that she feels just like this all powerful queen of Halloween Town, which is what she is.
Nice. Is that ever intimidating to ask for revisions like that? Because I know I would be like, no, if it's not too much trouble, could you please kindly change it?
Yeah, I know.
But I feel like you can't do that.
It's like, I love it, but
If you have the time.
Right. Just a tiny little thing, but not a big deal if not. Yeah. I mean, I'm very nice about it. I'm a little more sure of my thoughts and perceptions about things than I used to be. Like in book one back in the day, yeah, I was like, do whatever, you guys. Like, I'm just happy to be here. But you know, now I feel like I have a pretty good understanding too of like the reader feedback I get. And you know, if a reader hates a cover, I hear about it. My publisher usually doesn't. So so I'm the one who gets like all the notes from the readers. And so it does help to sort of learn what people like and what they don't like, and being able to sort of like steer the ship a little bit more, and knowing like that's a really fun cover. I love her.
It's a really great cover. Yes. A question from Lorene. How did you find inspiration for writing Jack and Sally's love?
I mean, I think for so many of us at the end of the movie, like they finally kiss. They finally kiss on Spiral Hill. We finally get this moment. Like Sally has been in love with him from afar for the whole movie. We finally see them together and they finally kiss, and then the movie ends and then it like fades to black. And so for most of my life, I've always wondered, like, what does their love story look like? And so I think in writing the book, it was just about tapping into that emotion that I saw really in Sally, and then envisioning, like, what does that romance and what does that relationship look like now that they're finally together? And getting to explore that was just such an honor, you know, because we all missed that. Like, we all want to know, like, what is their love story? And to finally be able to, to finally be able to like look into the layers of what does that relationship look like. Now, for a lot of the book, we don't get to explore the relationship for reasons I won't spoil, even though I spoiled another big thing. But so I think there's more story there to tell too. I do think like there's a lot more of their love story that, you know, hasn't been yet written. So, but yeah, that part was fun.
Very nice. And then from Mysterious Galaxy, were there any scenes or bits of research that got cut through revisions that you really wish made it in?
Gosh, I don't think so. There was nothing big that was cut, thankfully. No, I don't think there was anything major that was cut, which was, you know, great, because sometimes when you cut things that can really mess up the whole story and the whole plot, and then you end up with bigger problems.
Right.
So it's nice when a story can really stay intact. I think for me, all of the scenes that took place in Halloween Town, those were the scenes, like, because they took place with like current lore and existing story, those were parts that like we went through with a fine-tooth comb. Like I wanted to make sure everything felt true to the movie. I mean, I was watching the movie and like pausing it and trying to zoom in, like what are those steps made out of? Like, what is that door handle on Jack's house? Like, is that a skull? I mean, like trying to find those tiny details. Because in the movie, you kind of gloss over it, right? You're just watching the movie, you're enjoying the story. But in the book, like I need to know how far away the gate to Jack's house is from like the town square and the fountain. Like, how long does it take to walk there? Or when they walk across a floor, is it wood? Is it stone? Like I have to know those details to be able to describe them. And so a lot of that was stuff that I really had to do a lot of research on. And thank goodness for the fandom sites, because there were some really incredible fandom sites out there where people dissected all of this, and I was able to go pull from that too. So I'm really thankful for the community that existed, because they helped me a lot and they don't even know it.
That's awesome. And I feel like that's what helped make it such a seamless transition as a sequel from the movie to the book. Like it felt like I was in the experience of watching it again, because you went through the trouble of finding those details. Like that was really great. And I'm always very happy to give it up to the nerds that sat there making their message boards and wiki articles.
Yeah, right.
They are lifesavers. The next question from Catalina Lopez. Hi, Shea. What do you like most about Sally?
Oh, you know, I love that she has had such a full sort of hero story. You know, the way that we saw her at the start of the movie, she was very timid. She was very shy. You know, in the movie, she finally got enough courage to really go confront Jack about him trying to steal Christmas, which was a very bad idea on his part. And then in the book, we really get to see her like step into her own like bravery and power, because she's really forced to, she doesn't have anyone else with her. And so to see her from the start of the movie to where she ends up at the end of the book, which is like this really like empowered queen. She has a better understanding of who she is and that she can be any queen she wants to be. And really sort of owning that of who she is and her past now that she has an origin story. Like it feels like she's finally come together. Like she's this patchwork doll who was missing pieces. And now she's come together in the end and she just feels very complete. And I love the full arc of her story. I think is really beautiful.
Amazing. Thank you for giving us such a great arc to continue.
Oh.
From Mysterious Galaxy, did you listen to music while writing? And if so, is there a playlist to share?
Oh, I did listen to music. This was the hardest playlist for me to make, because I could have easily just used all soundtrack songs from the movie. But that would have, after a while, I think, been hard to listen to. So I had to be really careful to choose songs that really felt like they embodied Sally's mood. So it was definitely the hardest playlist I've ever had. There is not a public playlist right now, although my next newsletter that's going out in about a week, I'm sharing a couple of the songs from my playlist. So go sign up for my newsletter. Little shameless plug. And then you'll be able to hear a couple of those songs.
Also, next question, what have you been reading lately?
Oh gosh, that's good. So I don't think I can say what I'm actually reading right now because I'm doing it for a thing and I think it's not public yet. And a lot of what I read, it's like stuff that I have to read like for work. So what is something fun that I've read recently? I think it's been a while since I've read something for me. Gosh, I don't know, you guys. I think it's all been work stuff, which is very tragic. Oh God, I need a life.
What do you do to get your mind off of it and to just kind of unwind? Do you watch movies? How do you decompress?
Yeah. I listen to music a lot and, podcasts. And for me, it's just about getting outside and getting in nature, really. Yeah. And I do love to read, but you guys should see, you probably can't see, but like there's a stack of books over here. It's like, my stack of books that I should be reading is ginormous, which I know it is for all of you guys. But I think I have, last I counted, it was like 400 books that are on my to be read stack in my office. Yeah, it's a problem.
I was overwhelmed by my 7 books that are in the stack.
I know. And I have a week off planned in November and I keep thinking I'm going to take a couple books, but how do you choose? There's so many like brilliant books and I'm going to have to like pick a couple out of that stack. How?
Best of luck. I don't have any.
Yeah.
And then our last question. So if you have any more questions, now's the time to throw them in, because we're coming up on the last one that we have in the queue. Yeah. Have you met any or all of the original cast from the movie? Or have you met the characters in Disneyland or Disney World?
Oh, no, I haven't. I wish I'd met some of the cast. That would be amazing. No, I haven't met any of the characters. I have not been to Disneyland or Disney World in a very long time. But what's been really fun is seeing you guys send me photos of like going to Disneyland, meeting those characters, even dressing up. As Sally's just been so fun to see all these photos that you guys are sending me. So yeah, keep sending them and I share them on my social media because I just love seeing you guys get excited about it. It's so fun.
Well, now because I'm a Disneyland person, I have to know, do you have a preference between the two parks like Disneyland or Disney World?
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to judge you, I swear.
I've been at either. Oh my gosh. I don't know that I could choose. Could you choose?
Very easily. Very easily. Okay. It's Disneyland all day.
Really?
Disneyland.
Okay, why?
Well, in addition to it being my home park, I think there's something about it being the original. Yes, it is significantly smaller than Disney World. Right. But for me, it's a park that you can manage. Like that's a nice, compact, magical experience. It's the original. only one that Walt Disney ever actually set foot in. And Disney World is just it illustrates perfectly that bigger is not necessarily better. And I will die on that hill every time.
I like it. Yeah, well put. Do you have a favorite Disney movie or Disney character that's your favorite?
Now I get to answer the questions. My favorite, I'm a big fan of Princess Jasmine. That's always been my favorite character. Something about the way I feel like she was stunting on all the other princesses. She was just like, okay, be a peasant if you want to. I have a tiger. And I liked that energy from her. And that was, I feel, really dope. And I think my favorite movie is Peter Pan, because it just gave you some of everything. Like, you have pirates, you have fairies, you have mermaids, and we're talking never growing up. Like, that to me, Peter Pan is just, I don't know that one. What about you? Do you have a favorite Disney movie?
No, I mean, I kind of have to agree with you with Peter Pan. Like, that's got to be one of the best. But I also really loved Little Mermaid. There was something about Little Mermaid that was just felt really special and sweet. Yeah, Princess Jasmine, that's a good one. I feel like people don't say that enough.
They don't. I love me some Princess Jasmine. And if you have favorite movies or characters that you want to throw into the chat, I know that some people have weighed in on Disneyland versus Disney World. It seems like
you started
something equal love. Like it, I do a lot of stuff with Disney, so I have a lot of Disney friends, and we're constantly ribbing at each other, going back and forth. I just recently went to Disney World for the first time. The last time I went when I was like 10 years old. So just a completely different experience, whole different park. So and when I was there, I'm just like, I want to be back at my home park. They don't tell you. None of my little influencer friends told me about the storms that happen randomly in the middle of the day in Florida. Girl.
Yep.
A monsoon, and they were just treating it like it was normal. My shoes were they were buried underneath water. They were flooded. You don't have that problem at Disneyland. You get to just enjoy the sunshine at Disneyland. You never have to deal with that.
So that's another point of Disneyland right there. That's a big one.
It's a big one. It's a big one. Oh, and we've gotten more. We've gotten more questions here. We're talking about
see what you started.
I'm so sorry. What's your favorite scene from the movie? Allie wants to know.
Oh gosh, my favorite scene from the movie. There's so many. You know what? I actually really like when Jack goes to the human world. All of the scenes in the human world where he's delivering presents, like to see these, like the depiction of the human world in this stop motion animation was just so cool. I think that might be my favorite, but I also just love the ending. Like when they finally kiss and the silhouette and Spiral Hill is just, it's hard to compete with that.
Iconic. Absolutely. I like Oogie Boogie's song. You might call me a villain apologist. I have difficulty finding why they're guilty sometimes. So I like a villain moment.
Yeah. I mean, and that was a good villain song too. Villains always get the best Disney songs though, don't you think? I feel like yeah.
We're on the same page. They think that they're more dynamic than the princess. The princess, we're going to get a beautiful ballad. The animals are going to look, the wind is going to blow, the flower petals are going to flutter, and that's cool. And the villain's going to be like, nah, first of all, let's bring this key down several steps. We are altos here. Yeah. And then they just go from there. It's a party. So.
Yep. Exactly that.
Lorene wants to know, is there a book trailer for Long Live the Pumpkin Queen?
There's not, but there should be. Wouldn't that be fun? I actually had a vision because my husband, who's a videographer and an editor and a director, so he made the book trailers for my previous 3 books. But we didn't have time to do it for the Sally story. And there'd be a lot of like copyright issues with Disney. And so it just would have been kind of a nightmare to create it. So we didn't. But I have it in my head scripted. I know what it would be, but it probably will never exist.
As long as it exists somewhere, even in your head, that's fine.
I enjoy it all.
And you can just tell us that it would have been great, right?
Hello.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
We are almost out of time, but I wanted to make sure before we all disappeared, I had one last question for you. Where can people find you on social media? And if they want to give love, this kind of ties in one of the questions in there. If they want to send you love or anything, is there a good way to contact you?
Yeah, so mostly Instagram. So at Shea Ernshaw, very easy. I am on TikTok, but I'm not on TikTok. I'm there. I'm there. You can go there. I just won't be there. And yeah, and that's basically it. But same thing at Shea Ernshaw, very easy.
Perfect. And Tiffie, I know you already have in your bio where people can see you, but before we got started, you also mentioned you're on Twitch now. You're on Twitch. Do you want to plug anything?
Oh, sure. I'll plug away. But yeah, you can find me all across social media. I'm on all of them, the good ones: TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. So if all of them get a little bit something different in terms of content, but if you enjoy nerdy things or fashion looks, if you want to see me match my room more, find me on the internet at Tiffie Starchild.
I love it. So
And I love how the chat and the questions, everyone's loving the book, and there's so much love still after 30 years for A Night Before Christmas. So it's great that you were able to get approached and be able to do this. So congratulations. And
thank you.
I really hope more things in this universe comes your way, for sure, because I think you'd be great.
Oh, thank you. You guys are the best. I'm coming back here every night.
Yeah. And don't forget, everyone, if you haven't yet gotten your book, you can still do that through Mysterious Galaxy. We have the signed book plates, and they will come with your order. We do ship pretty much around the entire world. Some select countries with weird shipping rules, but otherwise, you can get your copy. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Good night, Shea. Good night, Tiffie.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Good
Tiffie.
night. Thank you so much.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.